Hey everyone, welcome back. Tonight, I've got a story for you, and trust me, this one stays with you long after it ends. If you enjoy meaningful storytelling like this, go ahead and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And don't be shy in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts and theories. Alright, get comfortable. Let's start.
The scent of melted chocolate clung to my skin like a second layer, sweet and persistent. My fingers ached from hours of tempering, stirring, molding the delicate truffles that had made Blanchard's Artisan Chocolates a hidden gem in Manhattan's Upper East Side. 6 years I'd been perfecting my grandmother's secret recipe, the one she'd whispered to my mother on her deathbed, the one my mother had made me promise to guard and share only with those I loved. The late afternoon sun slanted through the shop's front windows, casting golden patterns across the polished marble counter. I wiped my hands on my apron, leaving smudges of cocoa powder on the white fabric already stained with the evidence of today's work. My lower back throbbed with that familiar ache that came from standing too long, but I couldn't rest yet. Not when Dad was waiting at home, not when the medical bills kept piling up, not when this shop was all we had left of Mom. Allie, you need to see this. Jessica, my part-time assistant, called from the front. Her voice carried an edge of excitement that made me look up from the batch of dark chocolate ganache I'd been whisking. I emerged from the kitchen, tucking a strand of honey blonde hair behind my ear. The gesture left a streak of chocolate on my cheek, though I didn't know it yet. What I did know, the moment I stepped into the front of the shop, was that everything was about to change. 3 men stood just inside the entrance, but only one commanded the space. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with the kind of presence that made the air itself seem to reorganize around him. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from Carrara marble. All sharp angles and masculine beauty softened only slightly by lips that curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. His suit was Italian, probably custom-made, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes that emphasized broad shoulders and a lean, powerful frame. But it was his eyes that held me frozen. Storm gray. Intense. With a calculating intelligence that swept over the shop, cataloging every detail before finally, inevitably, landing on me. When our gazes locked, I felt it like a physical touch. A jolt of something electric and dangerous that made my breath catch in my throat. "Buonasera," he said, his voice a low rumble with just enough Italian accent to make the simple greeting sound like seduction. I was told this shop makes the finest chocolate in New York. I had to see for myself. I found my voice, though it came out softer than I intended. "We do our best. Everything is handmade using traditional methods and the highest quality ingredients." His smile deepened, and I noticed a small scar at the corner of his mouth that somehow made him more attractive rather than less. Modesty. How refreshing. He moved closer to the display case, his 2 companions hanging back near the door like sentinels. "Tell me, who creates these works of art?" "I do," I admitted, coming to stand across the counter from him. Up close, I could smell his cologne, something woody and expensive that mixed with the chocolate scent still clinging to me. My grandmother taught my mother, and my mother taught me. It's a family recipe, passed down through generations. "Family," he repeated, and something flickered in those gray eyes. "There's nothing more important than family, wouldn't you say?" I nodded, thinking of Dad at home, of how I'd promised Mom I'd take care of him no matter what. Everything. He studied the display case with what seemed like genuine interest, though I suspected this man did nothing without calculation. "I'll take a selection. One of each variety you have." His gaze lifted to mine again. "And I'd like to discuss a potential business arrangement." My heart stuttered. Business arrangements meant money, and money meant I could finally catch up on Dad's medical bills, maybe even hire someone to help so I wasn't working 16-hour days. "What kind of arrangement?" "Not here," he said smoothly. "Somewhere more private. Perhaps dinner tomorrow night?" "I promise you, it will be worth your while." Every instinct screamed caution. This man was danger in an expensive suit, power barely restrained beneath civilized manners. But I thought of Dad's latest doctor's bill sitting unpaid on my desk, of the rent increase I couldn't afford, of the future slipping through my fingers like sand. "Just business?" I asked, needing the boundary clear. His smile was slow, predatory. "Just business, tesoro, though I make no promises about what might develop beyond that." The Italian endearment rolled off his tongue like honey, sweet and dangerous. "My name is Raffaello Parisi Trovato, and you are?" "Allison Blanchard," I replied automatically, then immediately regretted giving him my full name. There was something about the way he repeated it, savoring each syllable, that made me feel exposed. Allison. He made it sound like a prayer. Beautiful name for a beautiful woman. He pulled a card from his pocket, placing it on the counter between us. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, Trovato Industries. "Tomorrow night. 8 o'clock. I'll send a car for you." It wasn't really a question, but I nodded anyway, my fingers trembling slightly as I picked up the card. "I'll need to check my schedule." "Check it," he said, amusement dancing in his eyes as if we both knew I'd already decided. "I think you'll find yourself free." As I boxed up his chocolate selection, my hands moving with practiced efficiency despite my racing heart, I was acutely aware of his gaze following my every movement. When our fingers brushed as I handed him the elegant black box, that electric sensation sparked again, stronger this time. "Until tomorrow, Allison," he murmured. And then he was gone, his companions following like shadows, leaving only the lingering scent of expensive cologne and the feeling that I'd just made a deal with the devil himself. Jessica rushed over the moment the door closed. "Oh my God, Allie! Do you know who that was?" I shook my head, still staring at the card in my hand. "Raffaello Trovato. He owns half of Manhattan, real estate, restaurants, import-export. They say he's connected to the Italian families, if you know what I mean." She lowered her voice. "The Mafia, Allie. That was a Mafia boss who just asked you to dinner." The card suddenly felt heavy in my hand. Dangerous. But when I thought about refusing, about calling the number and canceling, I couldn't do it. Because for the first time in 6 years of struggling and sacrificing and barely keeping my head above water, someone had seen me. Really seen me. And God help me, I wanted to know what came next. That night, I stood in my tiny apartment bathroom, staring at my reflection and wondering what Raffaello Trovato had seen when he looked at me. The chocolate smudge on my cheek was gone now, revealing the face I'd inherited from my mother. Delicate features, honey blonde hair that never quite stayed where I put it, green eyes that looked too large in my thin face. I'd lost weight over the past year, stress and long hours stealing my appetite. I looked fragile, breakable. Exactly the kind of woman a man like Raffaello would devour without a second thought. But I wasn't as fragile as I looked. I'd survived my mother's death, my father's decline, 6 years of building a business from nothing while watching pennies like they were diamonds. I was stronger than I appeared. I had to be. Because tomorrow night, I was having dinner with a wolf, and I had the distinct feeling I was being invited to be his next meal. The black Mercedes arrived at exactly 8 o'clock, as promised. I watched from my apartment window as the sleek vehicle pulled up to the curb, its polished surface reflecting the streetlights like obsidian. A driver emerged, older gentleman in a crisp suit, and I recognized him as one of the men who'd accompanied Raffaello to my shop. My hands trembled as I smoothed down the simple black dress I'd chosen. It was the nicest thing I owned, purchased years ago for my mother's funeral and rarely worn since. The fabric was modest, falling just below my knees, with long sleeves that covered the small burn scar on my forearm from a chocolate-making accident. I'd left my hair down, the honey blonde waves falling past my shoulders. and applied minimal makeup. I wanted to look professional, not like I was trying too hard. The driver knocked precisely 3 times. When I opened the door, he gave a small bow. "Miss Blanchard, I'm Marco. Mr. Travato sent me to escort you." "Thank you," I managed, grabbing my small purse. My phone buzzed inside it. Dad's nightly text asking if I'd be home for dinner. I'd already prepared his meal and left instructions with Mrs. Chen next door to check on him. The guilt of lying about where I was going sat heavy in my stomach. The Mercedes interior smelled of leather and luxury. Marco held the door for me, then slid into the driver's seat with practiced efficiency. As we pulled into traffic, I noticed him watching me in the rearview mirror. "Mr. Travato speaks very highly of your chocolate," he said, his voice carrying a slight Italian accent. "He hasn't stopped talking about it since yesterday." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I simply nodded, watching the city lights blur past the tinted windows. We were heading uptown, toward the part of Manhattan where I could never afford to live. "May I offer some advice, Miss Blanchard?" Marco's eyes met mine in the mirror. "Mr. Travato is a good man, but he's also a complicated one. Whatever he offers you tonight, think carefully before accepting." The warning sent a chill down my spine. "What do you mean?" But Marco simply shook his head, returning his attention to the road. "You'll understand soon enough." We pulled up to a restaurant I recognized from magazines, one of those places where a single meal cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Luminare. The name alone spoke of exclusivity and wealth I couldn't fathom. A valet rushed to open my door, and suddenly I was being escorted inside, past a line of well-dressed people waiting for tables. The maitre d' greeted me by name. "Miss Blanchard, Mr. Travato is expecting you. Right this way, please." We wound through the main dining room, all crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths, toward a private alcove in the back. And there he was, rising from his seat as I approached, looking impossibly more handsome than I remembered. Tonight he wore all black. The suit fitted perfectly to his powerful frame, his shirt open at the collar revealing a glimpse of tanned skin. "Allison," he said, my name a caress on his lips. "You look beautiful." I felt heat rise to my cheeks. "Thank you. This place is incredible. Only the best for my newest business partner." He pulled out my chair himself, his hand brushing my shoulder as I sat. The touch was brief but deliberate, sending awareness skittering down my spine. "I took the liberty of ordering wine. I hope you don't mind." The wine was probably worth more than my monthly rent. I took a careful sip, feeling completely out of my depth. "You mentioned a business proposal." "Direct," he observed, amusement dancing in his eyes. "I like that. Yes, I have a proposition for you. But first, tell me about yourself. How did a woman so young come to own her own shop?" I hesitated, unused to talking about myself. "My mother died 6 years ago. The shop was hers originally, started from our family recipes. I was 19, fresh out of high school, and suddenly responsible for everything. My father, the business, all of it." Something shifted in his expression. "Your father, he's ill? How did you—" I stopped, realization dawning. "You investigated me." "Of course I did." No apology in his voice. "I don't do business with people I don't know, Allison. Your father has Parkinson's disease. You're his primary caregiver. You work 16-hour days trying to keep the shop afloat while managing his medical expenses. You're drowning in debt, though you hide it well." Anger flared hot in my chest. "You had no right." "I had every right," he countered smoothly. "Knowledge is power, Tesoro, and I make it my business to know everything about the people who interest me." He leaned forward, his gray eyes holding mine captive. "And you interest me very much." "Because of my chocolate," I said flatly. "Because of many things." His gaze traveled over my face, lingering on my lips before meeting my eyes again. Your chocolate is extraordinary, yes. But so are you. The way you fought to keep your mother's legacy alive while caring for your father. The way you've refused to compromise on quality, even when cheaper ingredients would save you money. The way you look at me right now, angry and proud, despite being completely out of your element. I swallowed hard. What do you want from me? I want to make you an offer you can't refuse. He signaled the waiter, who appeared immediately with menus. But first, let's eat. Business is always better discussed over good food. The meal was exquisite, course after course of Italian cuisine that melted on my tongue. Raffaello kept the conversation flowing, asking about my chocolate-making process, my favorite recipes, my dreams for the shop. He was charming and attentive, making me feel like the only person in the room despite the restaurant being full. But beneath the charm, I sensed calculation. Every question designed to gather information, every smile a strategy. This man gave nothing away that he didn't mean to give. It wasn't until dessert, a delicate panna cotta that couldn't compete with my own creations, that he finally revealed his hand. I want to feature your chocolate in all of my restaurants, he said. Exclusive contract. Your creations as the signature dessert component in 15 establishments across Manhattan. In return, I'll pay you a monthly retainer that's triple what you're currently making, plus a percentage of sales. My heart stopped. That kind of money would change everything. Pay off Dad's medical bills, hire help for the shop, finally breathe without the constant weight of financial panic. What's the catch? I asked, knowing there had to be one. Smart girl. His smile was predatory. The catch is that you work exclusively for me. No other restaurants, no other contracts. Your chocolate belongs to me and me alone. My chocolate, I repeated. Not me. And for now. The promise in those 2 words made my pulse race. Though I won't pretend I don't want more, Allison. I'm not a man who hides his intentions. I'm attracted to you. Very attracted. But business and pleasure are separate matters. You can accept my offer and keep our relationship strictly professional if that's what you prefer. And if I don't prefer that? The question escaped before I could stop it, wine and the intensity of his attention making me bolder than usual. His eyes darkened with unmistakable hunger. Then we explore where this attraction leads, but the choice is entirely yours, Tesoro. I don't force women into my bed. I seduce them there willingly. The confidence in his voice should have offended me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my belly. I took another sip of wine, trying to steady myself. I need to think about it. Of course. He pulled a contract from inside his jacket, sliding it across the table. Take this home, read it carefully. Have a lawyer review it if you'd like, though I assure you it's more than fair. You have until Friday to decide. I picked up the contract, my fingers brushing his. That electric sensation sparked again, and I saw recognition of it flare in his eyes. He felt it too, this pull between us. There's something else you should know, he continued, his voice dropping lower. My world isn't like yours, Allison. I operate in spaces that exist between legal and illegal, between light and shadow. The people I do business with aren't always respectable. If you accept this offer, you'll be entering that world, at least peripherally. You need to understand that before you decide. Are you trying to scare me away? I asked. I'm being honest with you. Something I rarely am with anyone. He reached across the table, his fingers tracing the back of my hand in a gesture that was both tender and possessive. But I'm also selfish enough to hope you'll say yes anyway. Because I want you in my life, Allison. In whatever capacity you'll allow. The drive home felt shorter than the drive there. Marco remained silent, letting me process everything that had happened. I clutched the contract in my lap like a lifeline, my mind spinning with possibilities and dangers in equal measure. When we pulled up to my building, Marco turned to face me. He's never brought a woman into his business before. Never mixed the two. Whatever his interest in you is, it's not casual. Is that supposed to reassure me? I asked. It's supposed to warn you, Marco replied. Mr. Travado is a dangerous man to love, Miss Blanchard, but he's also loyal to those he claims as his own. If you become one of those people, he'll protect you with everything he has. I thought about that as I climbed the stairs to my apartment, as I checked on Dad and found him sleeping peacefully, as I finally sat at my small kitchen table and read through the contract line by line. The terms were generous, almost too generous. The money would solve all my problems, and then some. But I kept coming back to one phrase: exclusive rights to all chocolate creations. My grandmother's recipe, my mother's legacy, would belong to Raffaello Travado. And somehow, I suspected that was exactly what he wanted. Not just my chocolate, but the thing that mattered most to me. Because if he controlled that, he controlled me. My phone buzzed. An unknown number, but somehow I knew who it was before I even opened the message. Sleep well, Tesoro. Dream of possibilities. And know that I'm dreaming of you. I should have been frightened by his presumption, by the way he'd inserted himself into my life so completely in just 2 days. Instead, I found myself smiling, my fingers hovering over the keyboard as I debated whether to respond. In the end, I did. Just 3 words. I'm considering it. His response came immediately. Consider faster. I'm not a patient man when I want something, and I want you. I set the phone down, my heart racing. Tomorrow I'd think clearly, weigh the pros and cons, make the smart decision. But tonight, I let myself imagine what it would be like to be wanted by a man like Raffaello Travado, to be claimed by someone who looked at me like I was precious instead of a burden, to step into a world of luxury and danger and intensity I'd never known. Tomorrow I'd be sensible. Tonight, I let myself want. I signed the contract on Thursday morning, my hand only trembling slightly as I put pen to paper. By Thursday afternoon, Raffaello had already sent a team to the shop, installing new equipment, upgrading my kitchen, bringing in the finest ingredients money could buy. He moved with the efficiency of a man accustomed to getting exactly what he wanted, exactly when he wanted it. By Friday, everything had changed. Miss Blanchard, there's a delivery for you, Jessica called from the front, her voice pitched high with excitement. I emerged from the kitchen, now gleaming with stainless steel and state-of-the-art chocolate tempering machines, to find a massive bouquet of white roses. 24 at least, arranged in a crystal vase that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The card was simple. To new beginnings. R. He sent flowers yesterday, too, Jessica said, practically bouncing. And the day before. Allie, this is like something out of a movie. It felt like something out of a movie. The kind where the heroine doesn't realize she's entered a fairy tale with teeth until it's too late to escape. My phone buzzed. Raffaello. He'd been texting me constantly since I'd signed the contract. Nothing inappropriate, just checking on the equipment installation, asking about recipe development, making sure I had everything I needed. But beneath the professional courtesy was a current of something darker, more intense. Dinner tonight, my place. I want to discuss the menu for Luminari's spring season. I stared at the message, knowing my place meant entering his private space, crossing another line. But I also knew I couldn't hide behind professional boundaries forever. Whatever this was between us, it was inevitable, had been since the moment our eyes met across the chocolate display case. Yes. What time? 7. Marco will pick you up. Wear something comfortable. It's just us. Just us. The words sent a thrill of anticipation and fear through me in equal measure. I spent longer getting ready than I wanted to admit, changing 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a soft cream sweater. Casual, but put together. My hair fell in loose waves past my shoulders, and I applied just enough makeup to feel confident, but not overdone. I looked like myself, just a slightly polished version. Marco arrived promptly at 7, his expression carefully neutral as he opened the car door. "Miss Blanchard, you look lovely." "Thank you, Marco." I slid into the Mercedes, my heart hammering. "Where does Mr. Travato live?" "You'll see," was all he said, a small smile playing at his lips. We drove north, away from my modest neighborhood into areas where buildings gave way to estates, where walls and gates protected privacy worth millions. Finally, we turned through a set of iron gates that opened automatically, following a tree-lined drive to a house that took my breath away. It wasn't ostentatious, but it was unmistakably expensive. Modern architecture blended with classical Italian elements, all stone and glass and elegant lines. Lights illuminated the facade, making it glow against the darkening sky. "Mr. Travato is waiting for you in the kitchen," Marco said as he held the door open. "Straight through the main hall, then to your left." I walked through the house in a daze, taking in original artwork and furniture that belonged in museums. But it was the kitchen that truly stopped me in my tracks. It was enormous, all marble countertops and professional-grade appliances, with a massive island in the center. And there, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms, was Raffaello, actually cooking. "You're early," he said, looking up with a smile that made my knees weak. "I'm not quite ready." "You cook?" The question came out more surprised than I intended. "My nonna taught me. She said a man who can't feed himself is helpless, and Travatos are never helpless." He gestured to the ingredients spread across the counter. "I'm making carbonara. Simple, but my favorite. I hope you don't mind." "I don't mind at all." I moved closer, drawn by the domesticity of the scene. This wasn't the powerful mafia boss who commanded rooms with a look. This was something softer, more human. "Can I help?" "You can keep me company and tell me about your day." He returned his attention to whisking eggs with practiced efficiency. "Did the new equipment work well?" I leaned against the counter, watching his hands move with surprising grace. "It's incredible. I was able to temper twice as much chocolate in half the time. The temperature control is so precise." "Good." He added cheese to the eggs, the motion fluid and confident. "I want you to have everything you need to create your best work. No limitations, no compromises." Why? The question had been building for days. Why invest so much in my chocolate? Surely there are other chocolatiers who could provide what you need for less. He set down the whisk, turning to face me fully. "Because the moment I tasted your chocolate, I knew I'd never tasted anything like it. It was perfection, Allison. Pure and simple and perfect. Like you." Heat flooded my cheeks. "I'm not perfect." "No," he agreed, moving closer until I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "You're better than perfect. You're real. In my world, everything is performance, calculation, masks upon masks. But you..." His hand came up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture achingly tender. "You're genuine. It's intoxicating." "Raffaello," I whispered, my voice catching. "I'm going to kiss you now," he said, giving me time to pull away. "Tell me if you don't want this." I didn't pull away. His lips met mine with a gentleness that surprised me, a soft exploration that deepened gradually as I responded. His hand cradled my face while the other settled at my waist, pulling me closer. I'd been kissed before, but never like this. Never with such focused intensity, as if I were something precious being unwrapped carefully. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. His gray eyes had darkened to smoke, and I could see the control it took for him to step back. "The pasta will burn if I don't finish it," he said, his voice rougher than before. We ate in his dining room, though calling it just a dining room felt inadequate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a garden lit by subtle landscape lighting. The table could have seated 12, but we sat at one end, close enough that our knees brushed under the table. The carbonara was perfect, creamy and rich without being heavy. We talked about everything and nothing. His childhood in Italy, my memories of learning to make chocolate with my mother, our favorite books and music. He was charming and attentive, asking questions that made me feel heard in a way I hadn't felt in years. But there was a moment, just after we'd finished eating, when his phone buzzed. I saw his expression change, something hard and dangerous flickering across his features before he schooled them back to neutral. "I need to take this," he said, standing. "I'm sorry. I'll just be a moment." He stepped out onto the terrace, and though I couldn't hear the words, I could see his body language shift. The relaxed man who'd been cooking pasta was gone, replaced by someone cold and commanding. His hand gestures were sharp, definitive. This was the Mafia boss, dealing with whatever dark business funded the life he lived. When he returned, the warmth was back, but I'd seen behind the curtain, remembered who and what he really was. "I'm sorry about that," he said, settling back into his chair. "Where were we?" "You were about to tell me the truth," I said, surprising myself with my boldness. "About what you really do, about who you really are." He studied me for a long moment. "What do you think I do, Allison?" "I think you're exactly what Jessica said. Connected to the families, the mafia. I think your restaurants and real estate are legitimate, but they're funded by things that aren't. And I think you're giving me a choice right now about whether I want to know more or stay in comfortable ignorance." "Smart and beautiful," he murmured. "A dangerous combination." He poured us both more wine before continuing. "My grandfather came to America with nothing. He built an empire through sheer will and questionable methods. My father inherited that empire and nearly destroyed it with his weakness for women and gambling. When he died, I inherited the pieces and built them back into something stronger." "And the illegal parts?" I pressed. "Protection, mostly. Import-export with flexible interpretations of customs laws, ensuring certain political figures remain friendly to our interests. Nothing that hurts innocence, if that's your concern." His eyes held mine. "I'm not a good man, Allison, but I have a code. Family is sacred. Women and children are protected, not harmed. And I keep my word. Always. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want secrets between us." He reached across the table, taking my hand. "Because this thing between us, it's not going away. I've tried to keep it professional, tried to maintain distance, but I can't. Every time I see you, every time I taste your chocolate, I want more. I want all of you." My heart thundered in my chest. "I don't know if I can be what you want. You already are." His thumb traced circles on my palm. "You're everything I never knew I needed. Light to balance my darkness, sweetness to counter my bitterness. But I won't lie to you about the risks. Being close to me, being mine, it comes with danger. There are people who would use you to hurt me." "Then maybe we shouldn't," I started, but he interrupted. "Maybe we shouldn't," he agreed. "But we will anyway. Because I'm a selfish bastard who can't walk away from you, and I think you feel the same pull I do." He was right. God help me, he was right. We moved to the living room after dinner, sitting on a leather sofa that probably cost more than my car. He told me about his business, not the illegal parts, but the restaurants, the properties, the vision he had for building something legitimate for the next generation. I told him about my dreams of expanding the shop, creating a chocolate brand that honored my mother's memory. Hours passed like minutes. When I finally looked at my phone, it was past midnight. "I should go," I said reluctantly. I have an early morning tomorrow. Stay. The word was soft, but laden with meaning. I looked at him, at the barely restrained hunger in his eyes, and knew what he was really asking. Part of me wanted to say yes, to lose myself in the intensity I knew he could provide. But another part, the practical part that had kept me surviving for 6 years, hesitated. Not yet, I whispered. I need time, Raffaello. This is all happening so fast. Disappointment flickered across his features, but he nodded. I can be patient when it matters, and you matter, Tesoro. He stood, pulling me to my feet. But know this, I will have you. Completely. It's inevitable. We're inevitable. The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it made anticipation coil hot and urgent in my belly. Marco drove me home in comfortable silence. As I climbed the stairs to my apartment, I found another bouquet waiting at my door. White roses again, with a card that read, "Dream of me. I'll be dreaming of you." I fell asleep that night with his taste still on my lips, and the knowledge that I was falling for a man who could destroy me without even trying. And the terrifying part was that I didn't care. 3 weeks. That's how long I managed to resist Raffaello's increasingly insistent pursuit. 3 weeks of daily flowers, surprise visits to the shop, dinners at his home that ended with kisses that left me aching and breathless. 3 weeks of falling deeper and deeper into something that felt like love, but might have been obsession. He was everywhere. In my thoughts when I woke, in my dreams when I slept, in the taste of the chocolate I created that he insisted was inspired by the passion building between us. And maybe he was right. My creations had never been better, each truffle infused with the intensity of what I felt every time he looked at me. But I was still holding the final line. Still leaving his home at night instead of staying. Still keeping my heart guarded, even as my body betrayed me with every touch. That changed on a Tuesday evening. I was closing the shop when 3 men I didn't recognize walked in. They had the same dangerous air as Marco and the others who worked for Raffaello, but these men didn't carry themselves with respect. They carried themselves with menace. "Allison Blanchard?" the tallest one asked, though it wasn't really a question. "We're closed," I said, my hand instinctively moving toward my phone. "We're not here for chocolate." He moved closer, and I backed up against the counter. "We're here to deliver a message. Tell Raffaello Trovato that the Castellano family doesn't appreciate him expanding into our territory, and we especially don't appreciate him flaunting his new little pet." Pet. The word made my skin crawl. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied. "Sure you don't." His smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Pretty thing like you must be fun warming his bed. But you should know, sweetheart, that being Raffaello's whore comes with risks. People get caught in crossfire. Accidents happen." The threat was clear. I was being used as a message, a way to get to Raffaello. And suddenly, everything he'd warned me about became terrifyingly real. Before I could respond, the shop door burst open. Marco entered with 2 other men, all of them armed. The Castellano men raised their hands in mock surrender, backing toward the exit. "Just delivering a message," the tall one said. "No harm meant. This time." They left, and I found myself shaking, the adrenaline crash making my knees weak. Marco caught me before I fell. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, his accent thickening with concern. I shook my head, unable to speak. "Mr. Trovato needs to know about this. Now." He was already pulling out his phone. 10 minutes later, Raffaello's Bentley screeched to a halt outside the shop. He burst through the door, his usual control completely shattered. His gray eyes were wild as they scanned me from head to toe, looking for injuries. "Did they touch you?" His voice was deadly quiet. "Tell me they didn't touch you." "No," I managed. "They just threatened." Said I was caught in crossfire, that accidents happen. Something terrifying crossed his face. Marco, take her to my house. Now, use the secure route. I'll meet you there after I handle this. Raffaello, what are you going to do? I asked, fear spiking through me. He cupped my face in his hands, his touch gentle despite the violence radiating from every line of his body. What I should have done the moment they started making moves into my territory. I'm going to remind the Castellanos why people fear the Trovato name. Don't, I whispered. Please, I'm fine. It was just words. Words that threatened you, that made you afraid. His jaw clenched. No one frightens what's mine and lives to tell about it. Before I could process the possessive claim, he was gone, leaving me with Marco and the sick certainty that blood would be spilled because of me. Raffaello's house felt different that night, less like a sanctuary and more like a fortress. Men I didn't recognize patrolled the grounds. Security cameras that I'd never noticed before suddenly seemed to be everywhere. I was led to a bedroom on the second floor, Marco explaining that I'd be staying here until the situation was resolved. How long? I asked. As long as Mr. Trovato says, was his only answer. I should have been angry about being ordered around, about having my choices removed. But instead, I felt something else. Safe. Protected. Claimed. I paced the elegant bedroom for hours, jumping at every sound, imagining the worst. What was Raffaello doing? Had someone been hurt? Killed? Was this my fault for accepting his contract? For letting myself get close to him? It was past midnight when I finally heard footsteps in the hallway. The door opened, and there he was, still wearing his suit but rumpled now, his tie gone, his shirt partially unbuttoned. There was a cut on his knuckles that hadn't been there before. Raffaello, I breathed, rushing to him. Are you okay? What happened? It's handled, was all he said, his voice rough. The Castellanos understand now that you're off limits, that anyone who threatens you answers to me personally. I took his injured hand gently, examining the split skin. You hit someone. Several someones. No apology in his voice. And I'd do it again without hesitation. No one threatens you, Allison. No one. I should have been horrified by the violence. Should have been frightened by the cold certainty in his voice. Instead, I felt something primal and overwhelming. This dangerous man had fought for me, protected me, made me his priority over everything else. I was so scared, I admitted, my voice breaking. Not for me, but for you. What if you'd been hurt? What if... He pulled me against him, his arms wrapping around me like bands of steel. I'm fine. I'm always fine. It's you I was terrified for. When Marco called, when I realized they'd found you, his voice roughened. I've never felt fear like that, Tesoro. The thought of losing you before I'd even really had you, it nearly destroyed me. I tilted my face up to his, seeing the vulnerability beneath the control for the first time. You have me, I whispered. I'm right here. Not the way I want you, not completely. His hand tangled in my hair, tugging gently to angle my head back. But that changes tonight, doesn't it? Because you're not leaving. You're staying here, in my home, in my bed. Where you belong. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes. His kiss was nothing like the gentle explorations we'd shared before. This was claiming, consumption, months of restrained desire finally unleashed. His hands were everywhere, learning the shape of me through my clothes, making me gasp and arch against him. Tell me you want this, he demanded against my lips. Tell me you want me. I want you, I breathed. God help me, I want you so much. He lifted me easily, carrying me to the massive bed that dominated the room. His eyes never left mine as he set me down on the silk sheets, following me down to cage me with his body. "Once I have you, I'm not letting you go," he warned. "You'll be mine, Allison. Completely and irrevocably mine. Do you understand?" I should have been frightened by the possessiveness in his voice, should have demanded boundaries and independence. But looking into his storm-gray eyes, feeling the heat of his body pressed against mine, I found I didn't care about should. "Then take me," I whispered. "Make me yours." What followed was a revelation. Raffaello was demanding but attentive, taking his time despite the urgency between us. He worshipped my body with hands and mouth, learning what made me gasp and shudder. And when he finally claimed me completely, it felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. Afterward, we lay tangled in sheets that cost more than my monthly rent, my head on his chest as his fingers traced lazy patterns on my bare shoulder. "You'll move in here," he said, not asking. "I can protect you better if you're here." "Raffaello, I'm not negotiating, Tesoro. Not about this. Not after tonight. You're mine now, and I protect what's mine." I should have argued, should have insisted on maintaining my independence. But his heartbeat was steady under my ear, and his arms around me felt like the safest place in the world. "What about my father?" I asked quietly. "We'll bring him here. I'll hire the best care, the best doctors, whatever he needs." His voice softened. "I told you, Allison. When you're mine, everything you care about becomes mine to protect." Tears pricked my eyes at the casual generosity, at the way he understood what mattered to me without me having to explain. "For how long?" I whispered. "How long do I get to keep this?" His arms tightened around me. "Forever, if I have my way, and I always get my way." I fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than I had in 6 years. But in the morning, reality would intrude. Because being Raffaello Travato's woman meant entering a world where danger was constant and secrets were currency. And I had no idea just how many secrets we were both keeping. Moving into Raffaello's home was like stepping into a different universe, one where staff appeared before I could voice a need, where my closet filled with designer clothes I'd never asked for, where every comfort was anticipated and provided. Dad was installed in a ground-floor suite with round-the-clock nursing care, his medication managed by a private physician who came twice weekly. It should have felt like a dream. Instead, it felt like a beautiful cage. Raffaello was attentive when he was home, showering me with affection and gifts I didn't need. But he was also increasingly absent, called away to meetings he couldn't explain, coming home late with tension in his shoulders and secrets in his eyes. The passion between us remained incendiary, but I was beginning to realize that I was being kept separate from the rest of his life. "Where are you going?" I asked one evening as he dressed in a tuxedo, his movements efficient and practiced. "Business dinner," he replied, adjusting his cufflinks. "Very boring. You'd hate it." "Maybe I'd like to decide that for myself," I suggested carefully. He paused, turning to look at me with those calculating gray eyes. "Not this one, Tesoro. Trust me." "That's what you always say." I couldn't keep the frustration from my voice. "I've been here 3 weeks, Raffaello. I've met exactly 3 people from your life. Marco, your housekeeper Maria, and your accountant. I don't know your friends, your business partners, your family. I don't know anything about your real world. You know me," he said, crossing to pull me into his arms. "Isn't that enough?" "Is it?" I pulled back to look at him. "Because I'm starting to feel less like your girlfriend and more like your secret." Something flickered in his expression. Guilt, maybe, or irritation that I'd finally voiced what had been building for days. "You're not ready for that world," he said finally. "It's complicated, Allison. Dangerous. I'm protecting you by keeping you separate. Or you're protecting yourself," I shot back. From having to explain why you're with someone like me. A chocolatier with no family connections, no power, no use to your empire except as someone to warm your bed. His jaw tightened dangerously. Don't put words in my mouth. You know that's not what this is. Do I? I challenged. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I'm very good at two things: making chocolate for your restaurants and providing entertainment when you're home. But I'm not good enough to be seen with you publicly, am I? That's not fair. Then prove me wrong. I crossed my arms. Take me to your business dinner. Introduce me to your associates. Let me be part of your real life instead of just the part you keep hidden away. For a moment, I thought he might actually agree. Then his phone buzzed, and whatever softness had been building in his expression hardened. I don't have time for this conversation right now, he said, his voice cool. We'll discuss it when I get home. Sure we will, I muttered as he strode out, leaving me alone in our bedroom with the familiar hollow feeling of being second priority. I tried to occupy myself, checked on Dad, who was having a good day and seemed content with his care, developed new chocolate recipes in the professional kitchen Raffaello had built for me in the house, read, watched television. But nothing could shake the growing sense that I was living a half-life, existing in the margins of Raffaello's world, without truly being part of it. It was nearly midnight when I heard voices from the foyer. Raffaello had returned, but he wasn't alone. Curiosity drew me to the top of the stairs, where I could see without being seen. He stood in the entrance hall with a woman I didn't recognize. She was stunning, all sleek dark hair and designer elegance, her hand resting familiarly on his arm. "Thank you for dinner, Raffaello," she said, her Italian accent thick. It was lovely catching up. "My pleasure, Isabella. Give my regards to your father. Isabella." The name struck something in my memory. Jessica had mentioned her weeks ago, gossiping about Raffaello's past. Isabella Castellano, the woman he'd almost married before she'd left him at the altar. I watched as she leaned in, pressing a kiss to his cheek that lasted a fraction too long to be merely friendly. And I watched as Raffaello didn't pull away. Something cracked inside my chest. I was back in our bedroom when he finally came upstairs, pretending to read, though I hadn't absorbed a single word for the past hour. "You're still awake," he said, loosening his tie. "Couldn't sleep." I kept my voice neutral. "How was your boring business dinner?" "Productive." He shed his jacket, moving toward the bathroom. "We secured a new partnership that should be very profitable." "With Isabella Castellano?" I couldn't help asking. He froze, his back to me. "You were watching." I heard voices. I set my book aside. "That was her, wasn't it? Your ex-fiancée? The woman you told me was irrelevant to your life now." "She is irrelevant." He turned to face me. "Her father heads the Castellano family. We were discussing territorial agreements, nothing more." "Is that why she kissed you?" "That was a goodbye between old friends, nothing more." His voice had taken on an edge. "Don't make something out of nothing, Allison." "Nothing." I stood, anger finally breaking through. "You took your ex-fiancée to dinner, the same dinner you said was too boring and dangerous for me to attend. You let her touch you, kiss you, and I'm supposed to believe it meant nothing." "Yes," he said flatly, "because I'm telling you it meant nothing." "Do you not trust me?" "How can I trust you when you keep me locked away like a dirty secret, when you have business dinners with other women but refuse to let me meet anyone from your world? When you say I'm yours, but won't claim me publicly?" "I'm protecting you," he said, his voice rising to match mine. "The less people know about you, the safer you are. What happened with those men at your shop? That's what happens when my enemies learn about the people I care about. Do you want more of that? Do you want to be a target?" "I want to be your partner, not your possession." The words burst out before I could stop them. I want to be part of your life, Raffaello, not hidden away until you decide it's safe or convenient to acknowledge me. This is ridiculous. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. You're being irrational. I'm being irrational? I laughed bitterly. I gave up everything for you. My apartment, my independence, my privacy. I moved into your house, accepted your control over every aspect of my life. And for what? To be your secret girlfriend who you can't even acknowledge at a business dinner? That's not what you are. Then what am I? I demanded. Tell me, Raffaello, what am I to you? He stared at me, and I saw the truth in his eyes before he could voice it. I was important to him, maybe even loved. But I wasn't important enough to risk his carefully constructed world for, not important enough to fight for publicly. I need some air, I said when the silence stretched too long. I moved toward the door, but his hand shot out, catching my wrist. Don't walk away from me when we're fighting. Let go. No. His grip tightened, not painful but immovable. We talk this out. That's how this works. This? I met his eyes. What is this, Raffaello? Really? He pulled me against him, his free hand cupping my face. This is us. You and me. Together. In private, I said softly. Always in private. For now, he admitted, until things settle, until I can be certain you won't be used against me. And how long will that take? Months? Years? I pulled away from his grip. I can't live like this, Raffaello. I can't be your secret forever. You're being dramatic, and you're being blind. I moved to the door again. I need some space to think. This time he didn't stop me. I walked out of our bedroom, down the hallway to one of the guest rooms, and locked myself inside. Part of me expected him to follow, to demand I return. But the house remained silent. I curled up on the unfamiliar bed, hugging a pillow to my chest, and let myself cry for the first time since moving in. Not because he'd had dinner with his ex, but because I was finally admitting to myself what I'd known for weeks. I was falling in love with a man who would never fully let me in, who would keep me at arm's length, tucked away safely where I couldn't complicate his carefully ordered world. I was his lover, his escape, perhaps even his happiness. But I would never be his equal. And I didn't know if I could live with that. The nausea hit 2 mornings later. I barely made it to the bathroom before I was sick, my stomach rejecting the breakfast I'd forced down despite having no appetite. I attributed it to stress, to the tension between Raffaello and me that hadn't resolved despite his attempts at conversation. We'd been living in a cold detente for 3 days. Polite in front of staff, distant in private. He still tried to touch me, to pull me close at night. But I'd been sleeping in the guest room, claiming I needed space. The nausea continued. By the 4th day, a terrible suspicion was forming. By the 5th day, I sent Maria to buy me a pregnancy test, swearing her to secrecy. The 2 pink lines appeared almost instantly. I stared at them, my hands shaking, my mind racing. Pregnant. I was pregnant with Raffaello Travato's child, the man who kept me hidden, who wouldn't even acknowledge our relationship publicly. How would he react to this? Terror, and something else. Something that felt almost like hope, warred in my chest. I had to tell him. But the thought of his reaction, of how this would complicate everything, made me freeze. Would he be happy? Would he see it as another chain binding me to him? Or worse, would he see it as a liability? Something that made me even more of a target. I was still sitting on the bathroom floor, the test clutched in my hand, when I heard his footsteps in the hallway. Allison? He knocked on the door. Maria said you weren't feeling well. Can I come in? I couldn't answer, couldn't move. The handle turned, and then he was there, his eyes immediately finding mine on the floor before dropping to the test in my hand. For a long moment, he just stared. Then very quietly, he asked, "Is it positive?" I whispered. "I'm pregnant." And in that moment, watching his face cycle through shock, fear, and something I couldn't quite identify, I knew everything was about to change. Again. Raffaello sank to his knees beside me on the bathroom floor, his carefully constructed control completely shattered. His hand reached out, trembling slightly, hovering over my still flat stomach. "May I?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion I'd never heard before. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. His palm pressed gently against my abdomen, and I saw his eyes close, his breathing becoming deliberately measured. "A baby," he whispered. "Our baby. Are you?" I swallowed hard. "Are you angry?" His eyes snapped open, storm gray pinning me in place. "Angry?" "Allison, I'm terrified and elated and completely overwhelmed, but angry." He shook his head. "Never angry. This is a gift." Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by fresh fear. "But I'm not ready. We're not ready. We've only been together for 2 months, and we can't even have a conversation without fighting, and I'm barely keeping my shop running with the new contracts, and—" "Breathe," he commanded, his hands framing my face. "Just breathe, Tesoro." I gulped air, trying to steady myself. "This changes everything." "Yes," he agreed. "It does." He pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me with surprising gentleness. "And we'll figure it out, together." But over the next week, I learned that Raffaello's version of figuring it out together looked a lot like him making decisions without consulting me. He hired an obstetrician who made house calls, arranged for around-the-clock security that made my previous protection look casual, began discussing renovations to convert one of the guest bedrooms into a nursery, all without asking what I wanted. "We need to talk," I said one evening, finding him in his office reviewing what looked like architectural plans. "About the nursery?" He gestured to the drawings spread across his desk. "I've been thinking soft greens and creams, something gender-neutral until we find out—" "Not about the nursery," I interrupted. "About us. About what happens next." He set down his pen, giving me his full attention. "What do you want to happen next?" "I want to know where I stand," I said, forcing myself to be direct. "Am I still your secret girlfriend who's now accidentally pregnant? Or am I something more?" His jaw tightened. "You're the mother of my child. That makes you everything." "In private," I pressed. "What about in public, Raffaello? What about when I start showing? Are you going to keep me hidden away while you attend business dinners with Isabella Castellano?" "I haven't seen Isabella since that night," he said, frustration bleeding into his voice. "And I told you that was business. Then let me be part of your business." I moved closer to his desk. "Let me meet your associates, attend your dinners, be acknowledged as yours instead of kept like a dirty secret." "It's not safe," he said flatly. "It wasn't safe before, and it's definitely not safe now that you're carrying my heir. Do you have any idea what my enemies would do if they knew?" "Then maybe you need better enemies," I shot back. "Or maybe you need to decide what's more important, keeping me hidden or actually building a life with me." We stared at each other across the desk, the familiar standoff that had become the pattern of our relationship. He wanted me close but controlled. I wanted to be close and free. Neither of us knew how to bridge that gap. "I can't do this anymore," I said softly. "Living in limbo, never knowing where I stand, being kept at arm's length while you make all the decisions." "What are you saying?" His voice had gone dangerously quiet. "I'm saying I need more than this, Raffaello. I need partnership, not possession. And if you can't give me that, I took a breath. Then maybe I need to leave. He was around the desk before I could blink, his hands gripping my shoulders. You're not leaving. You're pregnant with my child. Which is exactly why I need to know this is real, I said, meeting his wild gaze. That I'm not just an incubator for your heir, that you actually want me, not just the baby. Of course I want you, he growled. I've wanted you since the moment I walked into your shop. I want you so much it's destroying my carefully ordered world, but wanting you and keeping you safe are two different things. Then let me help you figure out how to do both, I pleaded. Stop making decisions for me and make them with me. Trust me enough to let me into your world instead of keeping me locked away in this beautiful prison. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then very quietly he said, "Marry me." I blinked. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, his hands sliding from my shoulders to cup my face. "Not because you're pregnant. Not because I want to control you. But because I love you, Allison. Because I'm terrified of losing you. Because the thought of you being mine only halfway is destroying me." "Raffaello." Tears pricked my eyes. "I know I've been awful," he continued, his voice rough with emotion. "I know I've kept you hidden and made decisions without you, and treated you like something to be protected instead of partnered with. But that's because I didn't know how to do this. How to love someone and let them in without putting them at risk." "You love me?" I whispered. "God, yes." His forehead pressed against mine. "I've loved you for weeks. Months, maybe. Since you stood in your shop covered in chocolate and looked at me like I was just a man instead of a monster. You make me want to be better, Tesoro. You make me want to deserve you." "You do deserve me," I said, my hands covering his. "But I need you to show me. I need you to let me in completely, not just the parts you think are safe." "Then marry me," he said again. "Be my wife, not my secret. Let me introduce you to my world as Mrs. Travato, not as someone I'm hiding. Let me claim you publicly and dare anyone to threaten what's mine." It was the most romantic and terrifying proposal I could imagine. But looking into his storm-gray eyes, seeing the vulnerability he rarely showed, I realized something. We were both broken in our own ways, both scared of getting hurt, both fighting to protect ourselves even as we destroyed each other. Maybe love wasn't about perfection. Maybe it was about choosing each other anyway, broken pieces and all. "Yes," I whispered. "I'll marry you." His kiss was desperate, grateful, possessive all at once. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "There's something else," he said, his voice steadier now. "Something I need to tell you before we do this, before you fully commit to this life." Dread pooled in my stomach. "What?" He led me to the leather sofa in his office, pulling me down beside him but keeping my hands in his. "Isabella Castellano didn't leave me at the altar because she got cold feet. She left because she discovered the truth about my business, about what I really do." "I already know what you do," I said. "You know the surface," he corrected. "The protection, the import-export, the gray areas. But there's more, Allison. Things I've kept from you because I didn't want you to look at me differently." My heart hammered. "Tell me." So he did. He told me about the full extent of his operations, the less savory aspects he'd glossed over before. The gambling, the loans with interest that destroyed families, the violence that was sometimes necessary to maintain control. He told me about men who'd crossed him and disappeared, about blood on his hands that no amount of legitimate business could wash away. He told me everything, and with each revelation, I felt the ground shift beneath me. This wasn't the sanitized version of the Mafia I'd constructed in my mind. This was real, dark, and dangerous. When he finished, he was watching me carefully, waiting for my reaction. Say something, he finally said. Tell me you understand what you'd be marrying into. I swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Say you can live with it. Say you can love me anyway. His voice was raw. Or say you can't, and I'll let you go. I won't fight it, won't try to keep you, because I love you too much to trap you in a life that destroys you. I looked at this man, this complicated, dangerous, broken man, who'd somehow become everything to me. I thought about the gentle way he touched me, the passion in his kisses, the care he'd taken with my father. I thought about the baby growing inside me, the family we could build. And I thought about my mother's last words to me. Promise me you'll choose love, Allie. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I can live with it, I said finally. Not because I approve of everything you do, but because I understand why you do it. And because I believe that together, we can build something better. That our child can inherit an empire that's more legitimate than criminal. Hope flared in his eyes. You really believe that? I believe in you, I corrected. In us. In the possibility that love can change people, can change destinies. I placed his hand over my stomach. I believe our baby deserves parents who chose each other, fully and completely, with eyes wide open. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. I'll spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice. I swear it, Allison. On our child's life, I swear I'll be worthy of you. The wedding happened fast, 3 weeks later, in a private ceremony at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Raffaello had connections that made the impossible possible, including securing the cathedral on short notice and inviting everyone who mattered in his world. I wore white, a simple but elegant gown that accommodated my slight bump. Dad walked me down the aisle, having one of his good days, his hand steady on my arm. The church was packed with people I didn't know. Powerful families and business associates all gathered to witness Raffaello Trovato claim his bride. But when I reached the altar and saw Raffaello waiting for me, saw the naked love on his face, everyone else faded away. It was just us, making promises that would bind our lives together. I, Raffaello Parisi Trovato, take you, Allison Marie Blanchard, to be my wife. I promise to love you fiercely and protect you absolutely. I promise to let you into my world completely, holding nothing back. I promise to be a partner, not a possessor. And I promise that our child will inherit a better legacy than the one I was born into. My vows were simpler. I, Allison Marie Blanchard, take you, Raffaello Parisi Trovato, to be my husband. I promise to love you without reservation, to stand beside you in darkness and light, to be your partner in building something beautiful from broken pieces. And I promise that our love will be the foundation our child stands on. When he kissed me, sealing our vows, I felt the shift. I wasn't his secret anymore. I was his wife, acknowledged and claimed before everyone who mattered in his world. The reception was lavish, held at one of his restaurants with food and wine that cost more than most people made in a year. But the moment I loved most came late in the evening, when Raffaello pulled me onto the dance floor. Happy? He murmured against my hair as we swayed together. Terrified, I admitted, but happy. Good. His hand splayed protectively over my stomach. Because you're stuck with me now, Mrs. Trovato, for better or worse, for the rest of our lives. And our daughter's life, I added, having learned that morning we were having a girl. His breath caught. A daughter. Belle. We'll call her Belle, after your grandmother. Belle Trovato, I tested the name. She's going to wrap you around her little finger. Just like her mother did, he agreed, spinning me gently. I never stood a chance, did I? Not from the moment you walked into my shop, I confirmed. Best decision I ever made, he said, pulling me closer. You and our Belle, you're my redemption, Allison. My chance to build something good in a world I've made dark. I looked up at him. This dangerous man who'd become my husband, the father of my child, my future. Then let's build it together. Not perfectly, but honestly. Not hiding, but standing tall. Together, he agreed, sealing the promise with a kiss that tasted like chocolate and hope and the sweet possibility of happily ever after. Because despite everything, despite the danger and the darkness and the complicated world we were bringing our daughter into, I believed in us, in the power of two broken people choosing to build something whole. And in the end, isn't that what love is? Choosing each other, every day, no matter how hard it gets. Choosing each other anyway. Word count, approximately 340 words. Epilogue. 6 months later, Belle Trovato entered the world screaming, all pink fury and perfect fingers. I'd never experienced pain like childbirth, but the moment they placed her in my arms, none of it mattered. She was ours, this tiny miracle who'd changed everything. Raffaello wept when he held her for the first time, this dangerous man reduced to tears by 7 pounds of new life. She's perfect, he kept repeating. Absolutely perfect. And she was. Dark hair like her father, my green eyes, a rosebud mouth that found my breast with instinctive need. She was love made flesh, the promise of our future wrapped in soft blankets. Thank you, Raffaello whispered that first night as we lay in the hospital room with Belle sleeping between us. For her, for choosing us, for believing we could be more than our pasts. We are more, I assured him. And she'll be more still. Our beautiful Belle. True to his word, Raffaello had been working to legitimize more of his empire. The illegal operations were slowly being phased out, replaced by genuine business ventures. It was slow, dangerous work, but he was doing it. For Belle, for me, for the family we were building. We'd found our rhythm, our partnership. He consulted me on business decisions now, valued my input, and I'd learned to navigate his world, to hold my own among powerful families and dangerous alliances. We weren't perfect. We still fought, still struggled with his need to protect and my need for independence. But we chose each other, every day, through every argument and challenge. Lying there in that hospital room, our daughter sleeping peacefully between us, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago. Lost, struggling, certain she'd never be enough. And I thought about the woman I'd become. Raffaello's wife, Belle's mother, finally, blessedly whole. I love you, I whispered. And I love you, he replied, his hand finding mine across our daughter's tiny body. Both of you. My whole world. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I walked into his shop, but it was better. Because this wasn't an ending at all. It was just the beginning.